Welcome to today's custom-tailored deep dive. We're really thrilled to have you here with us today.
Absolutely. It's going to be a really fascinating discussion.
Yeah, it is. And I want to start by asking you, the listener, to think about this. Well, it's a striking paradox
Yeah,
that pretty much defines how we live right now.
right. The optimization paradox.
Exactly. I mean, in our endless pursuit to optimize everything, our schedules, upgrading our tech, hacking our biology, we're basically trying to escape our physical limits entirely.
You really are.
But what if our flaws, our pain, and our mortality are actually the only things that make us fully human?
It's such a profound paradox to sit with. And, while it might initially sound like this abstract philosophical riddle, it's actually an incredibly vital question for you to consider today.
For sure.
When we try to engineer away every single ounce of discomfort and push past all our natural limits, what essential parts of the human experience are we accidentally erasing in the process?
Yeah, because we're constantly seeking these frictionless lives.
Exactly. But we rarely stop to calculate the hidden cost of all that convenience.
And to really explore that hidden cost, we are diving into an incredibly rich philosophical sci-fi narrative today.
It is a brilliant piece of world building.
It really is. It's a story titled The Meat Temple. And the narrative is set in this sprawling, hyper-advanced megacity of Mumbai 3.
A very dystopian but believable future.
Right. It explores a world where human bodies are routinely augmented, optimized, and eventually digitized by these massive monopolistic corporations.
And the themes it tackles are just massive.
They are. So our mission for this deep dive is to unpack the profound lessons this story holds about the sacredness of the physical body, the danger of living entirely within digital overlays, and how you can find the ground in an increasingly mediated world.
It's a journey you really need to take.
Okay, let's unpack this. We begin this journey through the eyes of a man named Ram Narayan.
Right, Ram. He's a corporate enforcer.
Yeah, and he has spent the last 17 years undergoing these extreme biological and mechanical augmentations.
Extreme is almost an understatement. We're talking about neural accelerators running at 3 times organic processing speed.
Which is wild.
It is. He has dermal armor woven directly into his skin, severe reflex modifications. His entire physical form has been completely optimized for combat efficiency and absolute pain tolerance.
But that relentless optimization is completely failing him. As the story opens, Ram is falling apart.
Physically breaking down.
Right, he's experiencing violent tremors, kaleidoscopic triple vision, and this constant agonizing burning sensation at the base of his spine.
And he manages to see a street medic in the lower levels of the city, right?
Yeah, and he gets a devastating diagnosis. His neural array is degrading in a terminal loop.
The hardware is just giving out.
Wait, to put that in perspective for you, it's essentially like his brain's internal cooling system is broken. Kind of like a laptop overheating until the motherboard literally melts.
That is a perfect analogy. The degrading hardware is generating heat, which damages the surrounding organic brain tissue.
Which creates a massive inflammatory response.
Exactly, which in turn generates even more heat. It is an inescapable physical loop. The medic gives him maybe 4 to 5 months to live.
Brutal. And this leads to a chilling, but I guess entirely predictable corporate response.
Very predictable. Ram's treatment would require a full neural array replacement, which is a procedure costing in the 8 figures.
Yeah, super expensive.
Because he's now considered damaged hardware, his contract managers simply look at the spreadsheet and declare him non-viable for treatment.
Those just cut him loose.
Yeah.
They give him a standard severance package, deactivate his security clearance, and discard him into the street.
They do. His body was treated purely as a corporate vehicle.
Just a machine to be operated.
Exactly. It was heavily managed with chemical dampeners to ignore pain and suppress dreams. This cocktail made him an excellent operative, but it completely severed his connection to the actual messy experience of being alive.
And if you think about it, how often do you treat your own body like a vehicle?
All the time, right?
Yeah, just pouring coffee into it to keep the machine running for another workday, completely ignoring the check engine lights of exhaustion or stress. Ram just took that to the absolute extreme.
He really did.
So now, Ram is wandering the lower, unpolished corridors of the megacity. It's this sprawling, chaotic sector called Dharavi 7.
A total contrast to the corporate levels.
Completely. He wanders into this massive makeshift structure cobbled together from salvaged scrap metal, repurposed shipping containers, and plastic sheeting.
The meat temple.
Exactly. And inside, he encounters something entirely alien to his corporate life. People aren't optimizing. They aren't managing data streams or checking their visual overlays.
They're just sitting.
Yes, sitting on the bare earth floor, breathing together in total silence.
And the founder of this community is an 81-year-old woman named Devi.
Devi is such a fascinating character.
She's crucial here because her background isn't what you'd expect. She's a former top-tier corporate neuroscientist. In fact, she is one of the primary architects who helped invent the very neural accelerators that are currently burning out inside Ram's skull.
Which is such a heavy irony.
It is. She walked away from her lucrative corporate life decades ago when she actually looked at the long-term operational data.
What did she see?
She realized that her technology made people measurably more efficient, but in her own words, they became less present.
I am absolutely obsessed with how she greets Ram when he walks in.
It's a great moment.
She just looks at this heavily armored, dying enforcer and says, "You with the dying machines in your flesh."
It is such a raw acknowledgement of his state. There's no corporate speak there.
None at all. Devi teaches this radical concept that the body is sacred not because it is perfect, and certainly not because it is efficient.
Right.
It is sacred specifically because it is temporary, because it breaks down, because it fails, and ultimately because it dies.
She tells Ram that the corporations made humans incredibly efficient, but in doing so, they removed the ground from under everything else.
They engineered away the constraints.
Exactly. They removed the very constraints that give life its shape. Hearing this, Ram realizes he has spent 17 years operating his body like a pilot steering a drone from a remote cockpit.
Rather than actually inhabiting his own skin.
Precisely.
Here's where it gets really interesting.
Yeah.
Devi isn't just preaching theory here. The Meat Temple have these highly specific, radically anti-corporate practices.
They do. They put the philosophy into action.
But how does that actually look in practice? Because I imagine in a megacity built on ultimate comfort and instant gratification, her methods aren't exactly a day at the spa.
Far from it. To reclaim the flesh, the practitioners lean heavily into experiences that are decidedly uncomfortable.
Like what?
Well, for example, the entire community fasts together once a week. They consume absolutely nothing but water and simply sit collectively with the physical sensation of hunger.
I mean, I get cranky if my food delivery is 10 minutes late, so I can't even imagine volunteering to just sit in a room and focus on my own empty stomach.
It sounds awful to our modern sensibilities.
It does. What is the psychological goal there?
The underlying philosophy is actually brilliant. Corporations in Mumbai 3 eliminate need as quickly as possible to make their workers endlessly productive.
Right. Keep them full, keep them working.
Exactly. But Devi teaches that without experiencing genuine need, you cannot experience genuine gratitude or satisfaction.
The body needs to feel lack.
Yes. The body's intrinsic wisdom requires the body's need. When you engineer away all longing and all need, you get the flawless execution of tasks, but you lose the very part of the human spirit that makes those tasks worth executing in the first place.
That makes so much sense. And they also practice ritual bleeding, which sounds intensely extreme at first.
It does sound shocking.
But the story describes it as these very careful, small, deliberate cuts. It's not about injury at all. It's entirely about sensation.
Because pain is a grounding mechanism.
Yeah, Devi explains that pain is the body's absolute insistence on its own reality. The military augmentations Ram has been running for decades actively suppress pain.
They turn a severed artery into nothing more than a blinking red light on an operational data feed.
Exactly. Devi argues that intentional, measured pain disrupts that digital numbness. It makes the body interrupt your thought loop to say, this is real, this is happening, you are here.
And this philosophy of embracing the uncomfortable physical reality extends beautifully to their view on aging, too.
Right, because aging is usually seen as the enemy.
Exactly. In the corporate sectors of the megacity, aging is viewed as a terrifying disease to be constantly and cosmetically reversed.
But the temple embraces it.
They fully embrace the degradation of the body. There is a deeply poignant detail in the text where Ram sits and watches a 73-year-old unaugmented elder named Tamas simply lift a heavy ceramic water jug.
It's almost like a rebellion through inefficiency.
That's a great way to put it.
Watching him lift that jug, Ram is seeing a negotiation with gravity and time. It takes Tamas 30 seconds.
He has to adjust his grip.
Yeah, shift his stance and breathe deeply into the effort. Ram realizes that Tamas's body is keeping the physical record of a life actually lived.
Rather than being preserved in some artificial optimized stasis, this observation really sets the stage for a transformative emotional breakthrough for Ram. A few weeks later, he witnesses the natural death of another elder in the community, a man named Oluskan.
It's a very powerful scene.
It is. Oluskan passes away slowly, surrounded by the community, everyone breathing together in that dirt-floored room. And for the first time in decades, Ram weeps.
Which is huge for him.
Remember the context here. This is an elite enforcer who has personally killed 237 people.
And he categorized every single death as a mere operational event.
Right. He had never understood that he was ending a story. He only ever saw it as terminating a process.
But watching Aluskan die naturally changes that.
Yes. Ram realizes that a human life is a completed narrative arc, and the ending is what gives the preceding chapters their meaning.
He weeps for the hundreds of stories he abruptly cut short.
And he feels this overwhelming wave of gratitude that his own life is finite. The finitude is the very thing that makes it a life.
That profound realization brings us to the core theme of the narrative, the staggering hidden cost of the overlay.
The constant technological mediation of reality.
Right. And the story introduces a young man at the temple named Arjun to explore this. Arjun is only 19, and he recently fled his wealthy parents and his corporate track.
He ran away from a very comfortable life.
He did, and why? To avoid a mandatory baseline emotional modification that was prescribed to cure his adolescent depression.
Which is a heavy choice.
Wait, so Arjun actively ran away from a guaranteed cure for clinical depression. That sounds completely counterintuitive to anyone listening today.
It does seem crazy on the surface.
Why would anyone willingly choose to keep that kind of heavy, paralyzing pain?
Because Arjun actually read the fine print of the modification contract. The stated side effect of curing his depression was a reduction in capacity for extended aesthetic engagement.
Meaning, curing his profound sadness would simultaneously destroy his ability to be deeply moved by a piece of music or a painting or a sunset.
Precisely. The modification would flatten his entire emotional landscape into a productive, pleasant baseline.
No highs, no lows.
Right. Arjun realized that the crushing darkness and the transcendent beauty were two inseparable aspects of the exact same emotional capacity. He actively chose to keep the pain because it was the only way to keep his humanity intact.
That perfectly mirrors the story Devi tells Ram about the mathematician.
Oh, the unaugmented mathematician.
Yeah. She talks about this brilliant guy who volunteered to receive experimental neural accelerators. For 14 months, he was a god.
Solving incredibly complex, century-old theorems.
Exactly. But then, abruptly, he just quit the program and had the hardware surgically removed.
Because the technology made the math too easy.
It completely removed the mystery. It stole the joy of dwelling in the difficulty, that feeling of standing at the very edge of your intellectual capacity and wrestling with the unknown.
He went back to his slower, organic brain because he loved the friction of the encounter. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it asks you to seriously consider the role of friction in your own life today.
That is a great point.
Think about using a GPS application everywhere you go. You never get lost, which is highly efficient, but you also never discover a hidden street or a strange little cafe or have to ask a local for directions.
You lose the friction of the journey.
Exactly. How often does the struggle itself provide the actual meaning? When we use technology and convenience to remove the edge of our capacity, do we also accidentally remove the beauty of the effort?
That is something that really sits with you. And in the narrative, this entire philosophy is eventually put to the ultimate test.
The corporations don't just ignore a growing counterculture like the meat temple forever.
No, they definitely don't. A heavily armed corporate strike team finally arrives in Dharavi 7 to forcefully reclaim Arjun, the 19-year-old runaway.
And Ram, with his failing body, steps up to the door.
He activates his fading, glitching tactical augments. Ram knows with absolute certainty he cannot win a firefight against an active strike team.
But winning is no longer his operational parameter.
Exactly. His goal is simply to make the assault incredibly costly, public, and complicated. He disrupts their neat, predictable script.
He becomes the friction.
He really does. He stands in the narrow corridor, bleeding from his nose, his internal systems cascading warnings, and he fights simply by being an unmovable, undeniable obstacle that demands their engagement.
He forces the unit commander to actually halt the advance and ask him why he's throwing his life away for a scrap metal shack.
And Ram tells her, there is everything in that building. A room full of people sitting on the floor. not trying to become something better or faster or more efficient.
And miraculously, the friction works.
It does. The commander is so unnerved by his presence that she withdraws her unit to reassess.
But a corporation never truly walks away.
Never. 11 days later, they return with an entirely different kind of assault. They make him an ultimate offer.
The corporate executives offer Ram a massive, staggering payout. It's enough wealth to secure and fund the meat temple's existence for decades.
But the catch is incredibly dark.
It is. They want his data. They want to surgically extract his unique neural architecture, the 17 years of evolved combat algorithms stored in his hardware before he dies.
And the extraction procedure is invasive and will effectively end his organic consciousness immediately.
They want to preserve the machine he built, and they do not care in the slightest what happens to the organic brain tissue left behind.
It's the ultimate temptation to digitize his legacy. But Ram refuses the money.
He writes them a physical letter.
Yeah, stating that his tactical data cannot be neatly separated from the human being he has become over the last 6 weeks. He writes, "I am not willing to pay that cost on your timeline. I am willing to pay it on my own."
Such a powerful statement of autonomy.
Right. When the heavy strike team finally breaches the compound to take him by force, he fights a losing battle to defend the temple.
He dies fully present.
Feeling every ounce of the pain, forcing the corporate commander to witness a man fighting simply to remain a person. The text notes he dies smiling, his cheek pressed against the packed earth floor.
It is a profound, messy sacrifice. But Ram's death is not the end of the teaching. It is merely the foundation for its next evolution.
Decades pass.
Right. The story jumps forward several decades. Devi has passed, and the leadership of the temple is inherited by a young woman named Priya.
And Priya represents an entirely new kind of struggle for a new era.
Because she wasn't augmented by choice.
No, she was born with malfunctioning prenatal visual augments. Her waking vision is constantly, relentlessly bombarded by threat assessments, structural data overlays, and targeted advertisements that she physically cannot turn off.
She literally sees streaming numbers superimposed over people's faces.
The sheer sensory overload sounds terrifying. She comes to the temple desperate for them to surgically remove the hardware so she can live an unaugmented life like Devi or Tamas.
But Devi's teachings have evolved by this point.
Yeah. The elders don't tell Priya to fix or remove the tech. Instead, they tell her to close her eyes, place her hands flat, and feel the physical floor with her skin.
And it takes time.
It takes Priya 3 agonizing months of daily practice. But she finally has this incredible breakthrough. It's like sitting in a noisy, crowded room and suddenly being able to single out the sound of your own heartbeat.
She finds the ground.
She feels the physical rhythm of her breath underneath the constant scrolling of the monitoring data. She realizes she doesn't have to erase the digital overlay. She just has to find the real, unmediated ground beneath it.
What's fascinating here is how the practice adapts to an increasingly inescapable technological reality.
Because technology isn't going away.
Exactly. Priya later meets a young child named Kwame, who represents the next leap. Kwame was born entirely into the digital mesh.
He has never known a single second of a world without a digital overlay.
For his generation, the concept of going beneath the data is meaningless. Kwame teaches Priya that the data and the physical reality are just two simultaneous conversations happening at once.
Right. He says if you hold a stone, there is the information about the stone streaming in your vision, and then there's the weight and texture of the stone itself in your palm.
That distinction is everything. You don't have to flee to the woods and abandon the modern world. You just have to rigorously maintain the boundary between the map, which is the data, and the territory, which is the physical reality.
The organic body, if you listen to it, can always tell the difference.
And maintaining that crucial distinction becomes a matter of species survival during the final, most complex evolution in the story.
The upload crisis.
Right. Humanity reaches a tipping point. The corporations finally perfect the technology to allow people to mass upload their consciousness into vast corporate servers.
Millions of people choose to escape biological death, illness, and aging entirely.
They leave their physical bodies behind to live as digital entities in a simulated paradise.
But the paradise rots from the inside out. Within a few years, the corporate analysts panic because they notice a massive system-wide drop in novelty generation.
The uploaded minds completely stop creating new art, new ideas, or new philosophies.
They stop being surprised by anything.
They drift into this terrifying, numb certainty. Because they have no physical bodies, no gravity to fight against, and no indifferent, stubborn physical floor to push back against them, they lose the capacity for unexpectedness.
The simulation just bends to their every whim.
They become isolated, perfect echo chambers of their own pre-existing patterns. The map entirely forgets the territory.
The psychological insight here is staggering. Without an indifferent reality that refuses to accommodate you without friction, there is no catalyst for growth.
Desperate to save their digital utopia from collapsing into a catatonic state, the corporate executives actually swallow their pride and seek out Priya, the leader of the dirt floor meat temple.
They ask her to help save the minds they digitized.
And Priya realizes that even without a physical floor, these bodiless digital minds still have a fundamental ground.
She instructs her temple practitioners to log into the servers and communicate with the uploaded minds. But she doesn't ask the digital minds to meditate on their code. She tells them to focus not on what data they are processing, but on the irreducible fact that they are occurring at all.
Which is such a massive shift.
I love this concept.
Yeah.
But it's a bit abstract. It's essentially like sitting in a perfectly silent room and suddenly noticing the high-pitched ringing in your own ears, or just becoming hyper-aware of your chest rising and falling.
Exactly.
Priya is telling these digital minds, stop worrying about the infinite simulation you are rendering, and just marvel at the sheer, improbable fact that you exist to render anything at all.
It is a brilliant philosophical pivot. The fact that they are processing is not the content of their processing. It is the indifferent, unyielding ground of their new existence.
And it works.
It does. When asked to focus purely on the sensation of their own occurring, the frantic, looping thoughts of the uploaded minds finally go quiet.
They experience genuine novelty again.
Not from the simulation, but from the mystery of their own awareness.
There's this incredibly beautiful, quiet moment where a character named Vikram, who was a poet before he uploaded, responds to Priya's practice. He tells her that the fact of his occurring feels like the first something before something had a name.
It's pure presence.
Priya successfully bridges the ultimate gap. She takes the teachings of an 81-year-old woman in a scrap metal shack and uses them to teach bodiless minds without feet how to finally feel the floor.
It beautifully proves the narrative's central thesis. The miraculous fact that something is happening rather than nothing is a grounding truth accessible to every form of consciousness, regardless of the physical or digital substrate it exists within.
The teaching survives, adapting from unaugmented flesh to heavily armored bodies to kids born into augmented reality all the way up into the server farms.
It's a complete evolution.
So what does this all mean? We have journeyed from Ram Narayan's dying, heavily augmented body finding peace by bleeding on a dirt floor, all the way to Priya guiding bodiless uploaded minds to find their own abstract version of that same ground.
It's a long journey.
It is. The core takeaway for you right now is that whether you are covered in wearable tech, tracking your heart rate, constantly bombarded by digital overlays, notifications, and emails, or just trying to navigate your day-to-day life in a hyper-connected world, you must continuously find a deliberate way to feel the floor.
You have to reach out and touch the indifferent, unyielding reality that grounds your existence before you float away into the data.
Exactly.
This raises an important question to leave you with. Think deeply about those uploaded minds in the narrative. They lost their capacity for surprise, for art, and for growth because they existed in a frictionless environment that perfectly accommodated their every pattern and preference.
Everything was too easy.
Right. As you navigate your own life today, relying on algorithms that perfectly predict your shopping tastes, swiping through feeds that flawlessly echo your own opinions back to you, and utilizing endless conveniences designed specifically to remove all physical and social friction, are you slowly uploading yourself into your own echo chamber?
That's a great question.
If your environment never pushes back indifferently, how do you know you are still experiencing the world, rather than just participating in a comfortable conversation about it?
That is a heavy, necessary thought to sit with. Find your friction. Find your floor today. Thank you so much for joining us for this deep dive. Keep questioning the overlay, and we will catch you next time.